Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece Chapter 953. So, to start off, one thing I really found intriguing about this chapter is that it basically showed us, it pretty much showed us this basically real duality to an otherwise taboo act like grave robbing. Because in most cases, what we've seen and what's been enforced about like pretty much Wano's pretty much view on grave robbing and whatnot. It's very much something looked down. It's very much something looked down upon as a criminal act in Wano. Like that in itself has been. That itself has been established, that itself has been established, from even from before even before we even got to Wano, it was pretty much it was established it was established already from it was established already with pretty much Kinemon having with Kinemon just constantly wanting to Shusui from Zoro, and yeah, but with that said, it but in this particular case of this chapter, with basically what pretty much Kawamatsu was doing, it was kind of a case where, but in the case of what Kawamatsu was doing, it was a case where basically grave robbing was pretty much a sin that he was willing to bear if it meant saving Wano from an already hopeless situation. Like pretty much Kawamatsu, he was with Kawamatsu for as basically taboo as grave robbing is in Wano. He was willing in order to bear that sin if it meant saving all of Wano from, granted, an already hopeless situation. And I honestly hesitate to use this word, but I feel the most important thing we can probably take away from this chapter, and with basically the whole thing of grave with the whole thing of Kawamatsu essentially grave robbing in this chapter, is that even the most taboo act can have noble intentions, even pretty much if we pretty much still choose to condemn it as evil. And really when you think about it, it doesn't matter when you think about it, when it comes to stuff like this, there's always going to be this gray area. It doesn't matter how pretty much we basically try and constantly see it through pretty much the lenses of black and white. There's always going to be a gray area to everything. And yeah, like in this case, like I said, with Kawamatsu, it might seem, it seems unethical. Of course, obviously with Kawamatsu, what he was doing, it's gonna seem unethical to many, but it was necessary. And Kawamatsu, at the end of the day, he did have noble intentions behind everything he did, behind what he did. Now let's talk about one of the big reveals in this chapter, which is that Yukimaru was Onimaru, who was the fox companion of Ringo's daimyo. And this is one of those reveals where, when at the very instant we pretty much entered the flashback, I kind of clued in very early on as to who pretty much Yukimaru was at that point. But when you look at the implications of what this reveal means, it is still very epic and very emotional, because it not only shows that basically he was waiting for Kawamatsu to return this entire time, which is contrary to pretty much the latter's belief. But at the same time, this chapter also showed not only that Onimaru's self-proclaimed duty, that not only that Onimaru's pretty much self-proclaimed duty to Ringo's daimyo, and the promise he made to Kawamatsu inevitably became one and the same, but this also sheds a lot of light on his actions as Yukimaru, and how meeting Kawamatsu actually pretty much gave Onimaru this pretty much his. It gave Onimaru a new purpose after having lost everything that was dear to him. Onimaru, if you really look at what he was doing up to this point, a lot of what he was doing, he was clinging. What he was doing is that he obviously either way he obviously still had this very important connection to pretty much Ringo and the grave sites, but at the same time there was also this aspect to it where he was basically clinging to any kind of hope of basically Ringo's of Ringo returning to pretty much its former glory. But at the end of the day, deep down, he probably knew that probably wasn't going to happen until Kaido and Orochi were out of power. But he still wanted to like cling. He wanted to cling to anything he could in order to keep himself afloat, and. But really he didn't, he had given up mostly. That is of course until meeting Kawamatsu, who actually gave him but by meeting Kawamatsu, it actually gave him like pretty much new purpose after having lost everything that was dear to him. So Onimaru is so it's really interesting how Onimaru ended up being this. How Onimaru he was basically loyal to a fault, but he basically lacked a purpose. He lacked a purpose and a drive in order, and he lacked a purpose and just a and an overall, he lacked a purpose and just an honest question what he was being loyal to at that point. So, but with Kawamatsu, he finally gained something he could finally be like loyal to now, and and like I said, going off what I said before, like just his loyalty to the daimyo and his promise to Kawamatsu, they ended up just becoming one and the same in the end. and also, if that weren't enough, we basically, and now that of course that in itself, with the whole stuff with Onimaru and Kawamatsu, that of course in itself isn't the only stuff we get in this chapter. Because if that was enough, we basically get the whopper of all plot points, which is that one way or another, Zoro is going to be leaving Shusui behind here in Wano. Like, it's inevitable, and like I said before, this is pretty much something this is something when you really look at the entirety of One Piece. Ever since like he pretty much gained. Ever since Zoro had basically gained Shusui, it was kind of inevitable that would basically lead back to this, especially after bringing Kinemon into the picture. But but at the same time this is something that if you look back has been kind of set up even before we got to Wano again, and again even before we got to Wano. And which, like, when you really look at it, like, it's one of those things where, on one hand, I actually kind of feel a little sorrow. I feel extremely bad for Zoro having to go through so many swords, but obviously on top of the fact that something like this has been set up like even before he got to Wano. Obviously, this is kind of pushing forward that pretty much that basically there is something to what Onimaru had pretty much said about Shusui, had said about Shusui, if even Hiyori is asking him to leave without it. Like, obviously there is. There is something to pretty much the whole curse that Onimaru was talking about when it came to Shusui, but whatever that curse is, I definitely want to know. I definitely want to know, like, a little more as to what that entailed exactly. But on the flip side of that, however, the replacement option that Zoro's gonna get, yeah, sounds pretty badass. Because we basically learned that in place of Shusui, Hiyori plans to give Zoro the Meito Enma, or God of the Underworld sword, and the fact that the Meito Enma is the only blade to ever hurt Kaido opens up so many doors of possibility. In fact, okay, like, there are two things to definitely say with this reveal. The first is the fact that with this reveal, I genuinely believe that with the Meito Enma's reveal, we pretty much got our answer of how Kaido ended up with that scar on the left side of his body. But the other more important thing to take away from this humongous plot reveal is that this firmly puts Zoro in the spotlight as a key player towards defeating Kaido from this point on, and I could not be happier. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, when it comes to the whole concept of defeating Kaido, Luffy inevitably is going to be the one to pretty much deliver the final blow. I think that's the inevitability of it. But with this reveal of the Meito Enma having, like, being this sword that can actually inflict genuine damage on Kaido, genuine damage to hurt him. This pretty much tells us that basically what Oda's setting up here is, it's like, whether pretty much Luffy likes it or not, this whole conflict with Kaido, it's not going to end with a 1v1 effort like before. In fact, between this sword and Luffy's hockey wave technique, which he's training to master, yeah, this just overall just firmly places in our minds that pretty much Oda, he isn't being stupid about this. He's definitely planting seeds. He's planting seeds in order to defeat Kaido in a very proper way. And this, yeah, and like I said, I'm just excited that Zoro is going to be a part of that. Like, just the team up of Zoro and Zoro, Luffy, and just everyone, just the possibility of everyone just having a part to play in defeating Kaido. I'm all for that. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.